And you know what? If life were a musical, it means that every time you're feeling something or you're completely dysregulated, you can just kind of go, I feel this. Imagine if you're walking down the street and everybody's in their own, like, musical. It would be amazing.
Do it. I gotta get you on Broadway.
Okay.
Miren al químico que lo nombraron ministro de algo alquímico. Él hace poco mandó a matar a su socio y familia, chingar. ¿Y qué hicieron con esos cadáveres? Ácido. Miren al juez Santos, mírenlo, no le importa nada. Solo los niños, los narcos, los ratanaderos los llevan afuera de todos sus pueblos natales. A cambio de eso, Santos reduce los juicios a falta de pruebas. Habla, esta gente habla, pero ahora lo van a pagar. Habla, esta gente habla, pero lo van a pagar.
Welcome to the Actors Side. Today, I've been waiting a long time to do this interview. I'm so excited. Anyway, she is currently nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Emilia Perez. She is on television now, too, in Lioness. She is like in every movie that made the most money of all time. So many things to talk about. Zoe Saldaña, welcome to the Actors Side.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy we finally got to sit down.
I know, so am I. And congratulations on all the nominations and winning the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress. And I was there in that room and I saw your excitement, and it was just like such a speech from the heart.
Yes, it was. I wasn't expecting it. I was hoping for it, but it was a dream come true. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, so that was great. But you're up Critics' Choice, SAG, BAFTA, Oscars. This is like, and it's all first time.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is my first
considering how long you've been in the business and the level of movies and the stuff you've done, it's a whole new experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it like for you?
I'm taking it all day by day. It's you're always told, and that the journey is always about, finding roles and stories that fulfill you, that challenge you as an artist, that keep you constantly growing.
Yeah.
And give you the ability to connect with humanity in some way.
Yeah.
And then you're wishing. The little child in you is always wishing to be recognized or acknowledged by your peers and your mentors. And when that happens, it's kind of like an out-of-body experience, like all the time. But every now and then, there's these little moments of joy and presence that I'm managing to steal for myself, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I should mention, I know James Cameron's been in touch with you and so proud of you. And I've actually seen he's written things or done interviews where he says, I can tell you she is a real deal and all of this, and it's so great that finally they're giving you the recognition for that. Because he said sometimes in these big movies, you don't get it.
Yes. It's an interesting thing. Like, sometimes you don't get it. But if it was a beautiful and special experience for everyone involved, you can't ever forget that just because you didn't get an award. Yeah. So I've had a beautiful balance of understanding that even though something wasn't recognized to the scale that you were all hoping for, it still reached its message to so many people. Right. So in a way, you won. Yeah. And so I've always had that kind of perspective until you get here, and then you're like, you're nominated and you're like, this is so much different. This is so, I like this too.
Yeah, right. Well, I should mention, of course, everyone knows you from all these huge movies, the top 3 grossing movies of all time. The numbers are staggering here. You've had 4 movies gross more than $2 billion, $14 billion total on all your films. And, of course, Neytiri and Avatar, Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy, Lieutenant Uhura in 3 Star Treks, maybe a 4th. I'm going to try to get you to tell me. Even going back near the beginning of your film career, Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. These are all huge franchises where you made these very individual characters pop.
Yes.
And that's not easy to do.
No, I was told that it wasn't an easy thing to do. I always felt very fortunate. I always felt like, well, if that big director saw something in me, then I must be doing something right. Because, when you're younger, like you're so blissfully, just innocent to everything. And the one thing that you may have is that you're just absolutely fearless. And
Yeah.
and my fearlessness always came from my curiosity. I was always very much about like, well, why does she do this, and where does she come from, and what does she, who is she, and it was always on this quest to discover these characters that I was kind of incarnating, that I guess I don't know, I gave these directors a certainty that I was able to bring in a certain kind of depth or something to those
Right.
characters that they were either overlooking or that they were looking for.
Yeah. Like in Avatar, for instance, you're signed on. Your next one is Fire and Ash, I think it's called,
Yes.
right? And from what I understand, because they haven't shown me that movie yet, you're playing a grieving mother, and it's a very dramatic turn in the
Yes.
Avatar saga.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that the challenge for Jake and Neytiri in this next sort of installment of Fire and Ash for Avatar is they're going to really be tested in the most unimaginable way for parents to be tested.
Wow.
And they're going to have to make these strong choices. Do we stay together and continue to fight for all of our existing children? Or do we just give up and you go with your beliefs somewhere else and I'll go with my beliefs somewhere else and we'll just see what comes of the children? You just don't know. And in a way, even though they're set upon this amazing planet of Pandora, a moon of Polyphemus, like they're still such a universal family.
Yeah.
That are trying to figure so much out.
Wow. And you're signed on for all 5 of these, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to be like 106 by the time.
Yeah, I was 28 when I was 28 when I did the first movie, and I think if all goes to plan, I'm going to be 53, 54 for the very 5th one and last one. Yeah.
That's dedication. That's a commitment.
That's a gift.
Well, working with Jim Cameron.
My God, it's a gift to be able to revisit a character that has given me so much, to revisit a place that has been so magical, not just for me, but for so many people in the world. I mean, we're talking about communities in the Amazon. We're able to see Avatar 1, and they were moved by the stories that Jim was saying, and how they felt represented in the story that Jim was conveying, and that's beautiful to be a part of something so impactful.
So amazing. And everyone wants to know, is there going to be a Star Trek 4, and is Lieutenant Uhura coming?
I hope so.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
You're all in?
Like, guys, we're nearing salt and pepper here. It's salt and pepper phase. Like, what's going on? I was 29 when I did the first Star Trek. And not that age is anything, relevant, especially now. I'm so happy for that. But it's more about, do we give the opportunity to the next generation?
Yeah.
To basically come in and step into our shoes and just do it the same or do it even better. Yeah. Obviously the selfish part of us would be to do this over and over again, but I'm all about also creating great opportunities,
Yeah, and you had Nichelle Nichols' blessing when you
I
did
really
this role,
did.
which I think was so important for you, right?
Well, I was able to sit down with her, have dinner with her, go to an award show with her, to see her wild side too, and like her restless and young spirit. It was so beautiful. She's such a rebel in her own right.
But we are done with Gamora.
Yes.
Even though I'll bet they'll find a way to reboot that. But
yes. It was such a special, story within the Marvel universe. The underdogs, that are super funny, that never know what to do, and for some reason, if they follow their heart and they stick together, they save the day. They save the universe. I love that. Why wouldn't the Guardians be continue on? It would be wonderful.
Exactly. Well, Emilia Perez has certainly been a big deal for you.
Yes.
This has 13 Academy Award nominations, and we talked about your nominations and all of that. But this role, I think, embodies everything to this moment from your career, from your start as a dancer, from all of that, the singing, the drama, all of it going into this character and creating this character of Rita.
And to tell the story of a woman that was so in her own life, so feeling so marginalized, so overlooked, so desperate for an opportunity. Um, it just all the layers that Rita came with were incredibly challenging and rewarding to inhabit, her world.
Yeah. Did you have any trepidation about going into it once you read the script and said, "What? It's a musical. I'm doing this."
No, that the trepidation didn't come from that. It was more whether or not I was qualified for it. Like it's for me, once I singled out Rita. Obviously the story was deeply provocative, and we knew that from the beginning. And but it was just so, there was something really special about it. And then I singled out Rita, and so many aspects of her journey, though she goes about in a very different, completely opposite way from me. I felt that there were familiar things in her life, of feeling marginalized, of feeling overlooked, of feeling incredibly tired because you have to work twice as hard. And there were moments in my life as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and where I felt, I experienced those feelings in my own way. And so to be able to put them all in one place made me feel incredibly vulnerable. But also the gift of that is to be able to reconnect with a part of my life that as a child I started dancing and singing and born with jazz hands as a New Yorker. And I was given this gift to once again reconnect with that part.
Which is so cool.
It was so cool.
And you're so good in this. I have to tell you.
And you know what? If life were a musical, it means that every time you're feeling something or you're completely dysregulated, you can just kind of go, I feel this. Imagine if you're walking down the street and everybody's in their own musical. It would be amazing.
Do it. I gotta get you on Broadway.
Okay.
We got to take you to Broadway. You're ready. It's interesting, too, the way this was shot, the cinematography, the choreography. It's all coordinated with everything you're doing. And particularly in the El Mal number, which is up for original song and won the Golden Globe and is an amazing number that you have.
It is. It really is. From what Camille wrote for Rita de Say to Clement's composition, Damian's choreography, Jacques' direction. Like Jacques was just, okay, Rita's upset. Rita is done. Okay, go. And you're like, okay, what does this mean? And then I remember just that thing of breathe, let it go. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's about what it feels. And she was just desperate and upset and enraged and paranoid and just loose, like everything about that number was such an adventure. It was crazy.
Your process, as it were, this is the actor side. Your process is coming from the inside of a character, right?
Yes.
That's how you find them.
Yes.
Rather than material stuff on the outside.
No, I don't like to depend on my environment as much because I'm a deeply internal person. I internalize a lot. And even though as an actor, I may appear to be super bubbly and I talk like, I'm a little neurodivergent. Like I have a lot of sensory, particularities is how we like to put it in my family. And so the internalization of a character, its backstory, who she is, why she is, what happened to her, coming up with a very solid, tangible life, who her parents by name, where she grew up, what are the smells that she was exposed to, because I am that kind of person. I connect with the world through my sensory either load and overload and assimilation. So I do approach my characters as I'm putting them together by senses of smell and walks and taste and all those things.
That's so cool. What was it like working with Jacques Audiard? It's a great director. French, though. Doesn't speak a word of English, based on my conversations with him. And you're in a movie that's set in Mexico and Spanish, and what was this like?
It was great. He's a wonderful person. He's an incredibly curious human being. He's an avid reader, and that's the way. And cinema is a way that he has to connect to people. and have it still feel safe for him,
Yeah.
and because that's why when you could be talking with him, but he'll say 3 sentences and then he has to get up and walk, because
Yeah.
but it's just that's how he channels energy, I guess, and energy comes and goes. So to work with such an animated person and such a grounded person that he feels so much, he feels very deeply, and he's very empathetic. Language wasn't a barrier for us. Yes, there were moments in which I would kind of go, what did he say? What did he say? And I needed like assistance, but there were moments in which he would probably go, what does she say? But sometimes he would be standing behind the camera, and after I would finish a take, and we would just look at each other. I'm like, I know, I got you. And he goes, ça va? Ça va? So I got it, so there was this unspoken word, but that has to come from a truly genuine desire to connect with somebody, and tell yourself, we're not bound by anything.
Right.
We're gonna connect. We're gonna be on the same page, and we're gonna find a way.
Yeah. You I know auditioned for this, and you don't audition for stuff anymore.
I do. I sometimes,
yeah. But you auditioned online on Zoom or something.
Yeah.
And you had to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't go well the first time, right?
I mean, it did. Yeah. Once we got to singing, the singing was the last part. Thank God we didn't start the audition, with me singing, because that would have been horrible. But my husband was in the other room. Then I had the door open, so he kept popping in like. But it was conversations. Jack is a person that once you really challenge his mind and his curiosity, then he's open and he wants more and he's intrigued, and I'm kind of the same way in my own right. And so our conversation, I thought it was going to be brief, because I'm used to sometimes these encounters where people just have a very, very defined idea of what they're looking for, and when you're just not it physically, or it could be something, or they already have someone in mind, then it's a painful conversation to be in. And that wasn't Jack. At first, he was just tired because it was late for him in Paris, but we started talking and we dove right into Emilia, and mainly Rita. And it was, I don't know, I had a backstory for her. I just saw her. I saw her as a little girl. I invented something and it became really real, so that the Rita that was on the page, I was able to connect with her, and that's all I spoke about. And I can see he kept just kind of like going like this in this chair.
He was excited.
Yeah. And then
I'm rewriting this whole movie now.
and then he was like, did you I think he told Jean-Baptiste, his AD, Jibe, he told him, like, I don't really, she doesn't have to sing if she doesn't want to. I'm like, no, I can sing for you. At that point, I felt safe enough to kind of make a fool out of myself, or what comes of it. And I told him, I kind of put the sound here on my phone. If it's okay, I'm going to play it for you. And I did it. Wow. And I even surprised myself. I was like, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad,
It worked out.
It worked out, yeah.
Definitely worked out. I was hoping for a scenario in this year's Oscars where your husband's movie, Dovecote, which was a semi-finalist for live action short, didn't get into final thing because it would have been husband, wife. They're going to the Oscars, both nominated.
We each get a +1. Then we can take, one of our parents. We were working it all out.
And you, of course, star in that short too. So it would have been, sometimes my scenarios don't work out, but it's a great short.
We got so close.
Yeah, you got close, and it got recognition, and that's hard with short films.
And I made sure that he didn't forget that. I'm like, Papito, you got so close.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God. He was very grateful. He was so grateful and exhausted, because this is a first for both of us. The whole campaign trail is a new experience. And the level of connection that you're making with your peers has been the biggest takeaway. Just to have great conversations with people within your community, where sometimes you most of the times you're seeing eye to eye, and you're understanding where you're each coming from. That has fed us spiritually and psychologically in such a way as artists and as people. And the fact that we were doing it side by side.
Yeah.
parallel. He would be sometimes across town having two screenings and a Q&A for Dovecote, and I would be finishing Emilia Perez, and we would meet in the middle, or I would do the last one with him, or he would come see me. Blessed are we that as artists we're able to get this far.
It's so great. And of course, I reviewed the feature film you did
Absence
that
of
he directed,
Eden,
Absence
yes.
of Eden, which is so timely. I think I've
Yes.
told you this before, but it's becoming more timely. I think it's more timely in the last 2 weeks than it's ever been.
Yes. The Guardian. I read something on the Guardian. They were talking about Absence of Eden. I'm
about undocumented and this horrible situation that your characters thrust into and everything else.
And Marco's empathetic take on this. It's never a political movie. It's just a beautiful message, a beautiful take on something that affects us as people. Exactly. And Marco, as an immigrant himself, as a father of children that are half of color, and proudly Latinos and proudly Black, just like he is proudly Italian and proudly an immigrant, the recognition that not every community has the same reception when immigrating from one territory to another, just compelled him to dive deeper, and it compelled me to revisit parts of my community that I had only heard from, because I was only true to my experience as being a first generation of immigrants. They each came through New York, 1961. It was all through legal passages, and we were always taught to be respectful and prideful of it. And as I grew and expanded my life across America, my nation, understanding that it wasn't the same for so many communities that are marginalized day in and day out, and to know that we were in a position as artists to tell a story about this was incredibly just powerful for us.
It's a powerful film, and if you haven't seen Absence of Eden, I know it's easy to find Emilia Perez, Netflix, but Absence of Eden, find this movie. It's a wonderful performance.
Thank you.
Too, really powerful. And before we go, I have to ask you about Lioness.
Yes.
So you're doing Lioness, and this is playing a CIA operative and all of that. And you have told me in the past that you're dyslexic, and so you have to learn scripts in a certain way, and a lot of dialogue and stuff like that. So jumping into a television series, that's like nonstop.
It's nonstop. It is still a pace that I'm learning to kind of navigate.
Yeah.
It goes a little too fast for my gentle, sensitive, artistic heart. I need more time. And the constant changes is something that I can do it. I can adjust to. Collaborating with Taylor Sheridan, who is such a Molotov cocktail of an artist and a writer, but he's just incredibly perceptive and really sensitive to topics that are important to him. And the topic of women in service was a topic that was of great importance to him.
Another timely.
Very timely, and to know that we would navigate in sensitive territory, but for the sake of highlighting women in service. That's my entrance on Lioness, and I, regardless of where we stand, because I don't agree. I may not agree with some of the ideals of the show, but I do want to celebrate women that understand the sense of duty and are willing to be completely lifeless and abandon their families, for 8-9 months out of the year to save yours. And these women need to be acknowledged for just their service. They may not be the same choices that I would make, because I wish I had a level of courage that they possess, but their stories need to be told.
Well, let's hope people see that too, because what's happening in all these agencies and CIA right now is horrifying.
Yes.
And the power of film and the power of getting this out there is one way to combat all the bad things.
Absolutely. And art is not meant to be comfortable and safe all the time. Sometimes art is meant in cinema, particularly because being a filmmaker, it's just meant to bring up conversations that just need to be had. I as an artist and as a human being, what I'm most sort of seduced and encouraged by in my art is stories that are compelling and provocative and incredibly empathetic and just different and nuanced.
Yeah. We'll keep finding them.
Yes, sir.
But don't lose Pandora.
I promise.
And thank you for joining us on the actor side. We will see you at the Oscars. We may see you at the Emmys, too.
Oh,
Who
my
knows here?
God.
This is an exciting time for
Absolutely.
Zoe Saldaña. Thank you so much.
Thank you.